Did you know that there are over 2 millions of podcasts out there? So why did I feel the need to add one more? Podcasting has been an amazing experience for me, and that is something that I wanted to share with you. In fact, one thing I've noticed is that there's a lot of startups out there that are thinking about using podcasting as a strategy for them to increase their awareness of the market, to bring guests, and also to promote their products to the world out there. So today is a very special episode for me and for us here at Athena Leaders. After going through one long year of podcasting and coming live and logging in about 45 episodes in 1 year, I thought that this was the moment where I will come in and share with you all of the goodness. We're gonna look at behind the scenes of Athena Leaders and the Mary Poppins of Startups to help you understand how you can start your own podcast, what to watch out for, share our fun moments, the highs and lows, and so much more. Welcome to the Mary Poppins of Startups live show. I'm Naily Makangu from Athena Leaders, an organization that is passionate about helping startups design their products, deliver complex tech projects, whilst leaving behind the legacy of a happy and productive workplace playground. For those who are new to the show, very quick reminder, I love to interact with you. If you have any questions, do put it in the chat, hashtag Athena Leaders. We will find you and send you the answer if you are not live. Secondly, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Podcasting. Wow, this has been such an exciting journey for me. But sometimes when you've been doing something for a while and people see you today, they don't really have an understanding of all of the pain, the struggles, the negative beliefs, the thoughts that went through your mind when you first started, how you navigated those, and that led you to where you are today. So today, this is why it was really important for me. I had a lot of people whenever I do my startup advisory or I work with startups, or in fact, a few weeks ago, I was at the South Summit Startup Conference in Madrid. I was on stage for a couple of days, and a lot of people were asking me, right? Every time I talk about my podcast, they were asking me, how do you do that? How do you have the time to, go live once a week, prepare for the podcast, all of the marketing and the promotion before and after, finding guests? How do you even have the energy all the time, especially because I started doing this during very difficult time in my business and also of the world, pandemic and all of that. So how do I keep myself motivated? So I told them, well, this is actually a very good question, and we are going to look at it live today. So the first thing that we're gonna kind of look at is, why did I start the Mary Poppins of Startups live show? Well, I'm just gonna be very, very, very blunt and honest. I hated marketing. I hated social media, right? For those who don't know, I come from a very technical background. I'm a very practical person, very logical person. I used to be I am a software engineer. And now I just work with startups in terms of like advisory, or I work as part of the team to help them develop products, projects, and all of that good stuff. So my brain is really geared into, going in and challenging and dealing with problems with clients. And I love working with them remotely, in face-to-face, whatever it is. But when it comes to marketing, oh my God, it was a hell of a journey. And maybe I will do another live just to focus on that aspect, how I went from not really wanting to be on camera, I wanted to talk to people, to dancing or maybe expressing myself more, recording videos and all of that thing. But one thing I noticed about marketing was that I felt like it was a chore, right? For those who have been following me for a while, I always talk about the concept of designing a workplace playground for your people so that they feel motivated, empowered, and I want to stay with you. So why was I not designing a workplace playground for myself? Every time I had to do anything to do with marketing and promotion for me, even though I had a team that helped me with that, I just felt that it was a drag. It was a drag, and there was something that was missing. There was a light bulb that was missing from it. So then I realized, actually, one of the things I really like to do is to connect with people and share values. Again, for those who don't know, I have spent a lot of time volunteering in my life ever since I was 17 years old. I volunteered in so many different organizations. And in fact, in 2017, I was helping a community trying to raise the profile of a nonprofit by organizing a theater play, or pantomime, like we call them in the UK, a theater play from scratch, right? So bear in mind, I don't have any background in theater. So I'm kind of crazy like that. So I thought, okay, so if I've done all of those and I've played before, and I know that I love connecting and serving, what is the best way for me to use marketing as a way of serving? I thought about podcasting, and I even attended a few weeks course where people tell you a lot about podcasting, the equipment, what to think about, to bear in mind. But I still felt like something else was missing. I felt like video podcasting was for me. Here are the reasons why I think video podcasting, especially go live. I think this is going to be very important for you if you are very busy and time is not on your side. Then live podcast works really, really well. First thing, when it comes to live podcasts, you have a set time that regardless of what happens, you have to go live. So whenever you invite guests knows that they have been committed to something that goes at exactly that time, and the likelihood of having to deal with rescheduling all the time goes down a little bit. So if you do pre-recorded sessions, you will see that because life happens to everybody, you might struggle with timing. For myself, the reason why I decided to go live podcasting rather than broadcast on audio only was because I know that I have a bit of a perfectionist tendency. This is something that I spend a huge part of my life walking away from. But like they say, it's always good to know that there are moments where I just want to think everything to be perfect. So to be able to go around that problem of perfectionism, I thought that going live is great. I go live, it happens. I make a mistake, I learn to deal with it on the spot. There's no going back and editing the videos, trying to say the same sentence over and over and over again so that it's actually perfect. So for anyone who believes that they might have this tendency of wanting everything to be super polished and perfect, then I will tell you, and I would advise you to go live. Of course, you might say, what if something really bad happens? Well, check my first few videos. A lot of bad things happen. I mean, not crucial, really bad. But there were moments where I felt like my talk were not really as tight as I wanted to say, or maybe I mispronounced the word, or maybe I did something wrong. But what I decided to do was to use podcasting as a learning curve. Helped me really to learn how to speak on the spot, really to develop my confidence in terms of public speaking, because I do public speaking as well. So I felt like it was a great format that suited me. Of course, you might want something else. It's completely dependent to you. But when people want to know and ask me the questions of what is it that I do and why did I pick up live video podcasting and whether I should consider it, those are my reasons. So the second question that a lot of people ask me when they're like, okay, we see that you hated marketing and you wanted to do something that was fun for you because you love connecting with other people. We get that. We love seeing you live. You have a lot of energy. Some people tell me that. Actually, after a live, I usually go and lie down a bit. But so how do you make it work, right? What are some of the challenges, especially early on, that you faced? How much time do you have? Don't worry, we are going to keep it brief. Anyone who wants to find out more, let me know. I always love chatting to people and I can do a part 2, 3 or whatever. But some of the main challenges that I want to share with you are things that I know also resonate with a lot of people out there, right? So first is confidence, imposter syndrome, all of that. Those are something that especially early on really affected me. And there were times where I thought, should I do it? Should I not? In fact, if you look at my YouTube page, Athena Leaders YouTube page, where we host all of the podcasts, you will notice that there were a lot of other interviews that I did before with other people. There were a lot of other videos that I put out there. The consistency wasn't there until I started my podcast, but I was already trying to push myself out there. And the problem with confidence, especially when you run a podcast or you do video marketing, is that you have to see your face, right? How many people out there, put your hands up or put something in the comments, how many people out there hate listening to their own voice, right? And I was one of them. And sometimes I still, when I put myself, I'll go or watch my TV and I want to watch a live to see what kind of, how I can improve. I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to see myself. But it's the step and the journey I had to go through. So there was a lot of aspect of, not wanting to hear my own voice, not wanting to see myself on camera and trying to spot any type of imperfection. And as I've mentioned before, I used to have a perfectionism tendency. So seeing that I'm online, I'm like, especially earlier on, right? I might maybe ramble for too long. And I'm like, ooh, why did I even say that? Why did you say those words, right? And having to go through that, it was a good positive learning. But of course, I do appreciate all of the negative thoughts that came into my mind earlier on and how I dealt with that. Other aspect I find that some people, especially if English is not your first language, people struggle to go out there and express themselves, especially when it comes to podcasts, because they're worried about their accents. So my first language is actually French, and I speak English, natively. I've lived in the UK for many, many years. But one thing that I've noticed is because now I'm very fluent in, I would say 80% fluent in Spanish, and I speak a lot more French. Oh my God, when I talk, sometimes my brain, all the languages kind of merge into one. And I want to say something and I'm thinking into 3 different languages. And because of the 3 languages might have words that are similar, but different pronunciation, sometimes when I'm live, I might pronounce things the wrong way, right? So I know a lot of people think that, this is just a detail, but those are some of the barriers that could be holding you back. So if you are thinking about launching your own podcast and you worry about your accents, am I speaking too fast? Am I speaking too slow? All of those kind of things that you think could affect the quality, I would say just jump in. The best way to improve and the best way to get where you want to go is by starting. And that's what I did. And every time I watched my podcast and I'm like, okay, I know you need to enunciate more. You need to appreciate the fact that, at the end of the day, my accent is my identity. It's who I am. It's what makes me who I am. And in fact, a lot of people, when they hear me, they're like, oh, we've noticed that you have a little bit of a French accent or maybe a Spanish twang when you speak or whatever. And that becomes a conversation starter. So really, if you're going to go into this idea of podcasting and putting yourself out there, even if you're not podcasting, but you're just doing promotions, people will always judge you or will always have their preconception about you or whatever. But at the end of the day, what is your message? And a lot of people look at yes, you have to have a good camera and everything like that. But for me, what is really important is my mission, which is to help a lot of startups out there and entrepreneurs to launch their ideas and also to serve my community. I know that through my podcast, I can help provide values, so someone can want to work with me or wants to pay me for the services. Those who might not are still getting value through my podcast, right? So when I was focused on that, it really helped me overcome the challenge when it comes to just the confidence, the negative beliefs, the limiting beliefs. Linked to that, there's the what if nobody shows up? That's something that I used to worry about quite a lot. What if nobody shows up? You just speak to yourself. And how do you just speak to yourself, right? The other things was as well, one of the things that people don't talk a lot about, especially when you look online, is what happens if you're having a bad day? We all have bad days. You can feel lonely, depressed. You might have a call with a client that didn't go well, a client didn't pay you, or something unexpected happened. You might be locked down. I hope this is never going to happen again. But, there's a lot of things that happens. Or you might be sick. You might have lost your voice, which happened to me a few times. So how do you make sure that you still go live and you are still committed? For me, as I've mentioned, it goes back to connecting with my mission and being passionate about what I do. I know that I love my job and I love podcasting and I love this as part of my marketing campaign, my promotion, but also as serving the community. This is what kind of keeps me going. And more importantly, I know that if I'm going to do this, consistency is the most important thing. Some people worry so much about how many views did I get today. What I think about is how many views this episode will get in a year from now. And in fact, one of the things that I've looked at, of course, if you are new to podcasting or you're considering that, just have a look at the fact that when you first start, people might not know you very well. Then as the longer you stay in the game, people start being attracted to you. And when they get to know you and your message, they tend to go back and watch previous episodes. So there are episodes where after going live, I was like, ooh, okay, there was only 2 or 3 people or something like that. But now when I go back in those episodes, the numbers increased. So in the beginning, especially the first year, unless you are very, very, I don't know, famous, popular, or whatever, depending on how you do your partnership and sponsorship, you can go very quickly, or you could do it more organically, which is the strategy that I wanted to go through, at least my first year, because I thought this is my experiment year. I want to have fun. It's my workplace playground, and I want to focus on serving, right? So in terms of mental health, I would say, so when you feel low and down, again, there are times, I'm going to be very, very honest here. I'm not lying. There are times where I turned up, literally, I stayed in bed because something really bad was happening, or I was feeling very depressed, very low motivation. But I knew that regardless of what happens, I'm going to go live. I've prepared for it and I'm going to go. So even if I was crying before, about 15 minutes before my team and I connect, I will go wash my face, do a bit of a dance. And in fact, one of the reasons why the intro song of the show is actually very, energetic is because it energizes me. And usually me and team and I, we dance in the background before you see Naily appear, because it just reconnects me again with my mission. So if you are going to go to do podcasting, especially live, you need to bear in mind that life will happen and emotion will happen, and it's part of life. But your determination, your perseverance, the consistency, and the reason why you do what you do is what is going to help you have the energy. And if that energy that day was only 30 minutes to go live or an hour to go live, and then I'm back to bed in the dark, that's what I'm going to do. But this is how I personally have handled this. Other people might give you different stories, but for me, I wanted to share what is very true and real, because a lot of people don't mention that when they talk about their journey into podcasting, especially if you go live. But, it's all part of life. So the last one I'll talk about in terms of the challenges are technology and time. Sometimes you could have conflicts because the client might say, oh, we've got to do this thing. It's really important. What do you do? One day I was training for the entire day. So I was starting at 9 o'clock in the morning and finish at 6 p.m. But at the same time, in between, I also had to do the podcast. So when I did my training at lunchtime, when everybody goes off and trying to, stop watching on the screen, because also I was training online, and they go and go for a walk, I did a quick change, came online, run my podcast, then got 20 minutes to just go out for about 5-10 minutes to look outside, eat very quickly, and then went back to work again and finish the training. That happens a lot as well when I do work with clients. That's a lot in depth. So I try to schedule it so that at the break time and lunchtime, which is why I go live around lunchtime, I can just disappear, do my podcasting, and go back to it. If you're worried about that as a strategy, another thing that my team and I are doing is maybe to have a backup episode somewhere, so that if I really cannot go live, we either can stream that, or we just postpone maybe for the next day. And again, I'm trying not to, because I know that people expect me to be live at a certain time. In a way, what's really important is how do you manage your time? How do you block your calendar? How do you talk to clients and get them to understand what you're doing, and of course the value for your own work? But also I've done it in a way that at lunchtime it's very rare that the client will want me to be working with them during lunchtime. So what I just do, okay, if I know I'm going to have lunch and a lot of, I'm going to have a live and I have a lot of clients work, I try to have one of the short 30 minutes or 25 minutes episodes, so that it gives me time to also have a break. Then technology. Yes, technology is another challenge. Luckily for me, I love tech. So I love editing videos and I love putting things together. I love processes, but this is something that you also need to bear in mind. So if you just came on the show, welcome to the show. And we've been talking about podcasting, the challenges, and also the benefits for you if you want to start, but just going through behind the scenes of podcasting at Athena Leaders, and what the amazing thing that we've done, and the challenges and the struggles that we've gone through. But hey ho, we are still here today, and we are ready to continue serving you with even more content. The next question we look at, another thing that people talk a lot, is about pivoting, right? Finding your own voice. What do I talk about and how do I change that? It's very important when you first start podcasting to make sure that you have an understanding of first, who are you speaking to? What is your target market? What is the core message that you want to share? And what do you want to be known for? There's so many other things that you can do. You need to be open to experimenting, which I'm going to explain with you or share with you a bit how I experimented through my own journey. But it's very, very important that you know who you're speaking to. Your podcast will grow in one or another direction. And once people start knowing the kind of content that you do, they can recommend and share to other people. And if you're listening to that, this is a great time for you to like or share the videos to others. If you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? When it comes to finding your voice, personally for me, I knew that I loved working with companies, of course, tech companies, working with startups, and the underlying or the foundation of everything that I do is about helping people have a workplace playground. Yes, I absolutely love tech. I love engineering, but the most important thing for me is making sure that I build strong teams so that if I have a happy team or happy organization, despite the challenges that we face while we are building the product, while we are working on the projects or whatever we are doing, I know that there is we will do better together in a better team, in a better organization, better culture than without. So when I first started, I talked a lot about teams, and I talked a lot about workplace playground, but I also talked a lot about hybrid and remote working because this was the trend at the time. A lot of companies were struggling with hybrid because of COVID. So what can I do to help with that? Then I think halfway through last year, I realized that whenever I was speaking to people externally, they thought I was doing more organizational design in organizations. I was doing more like HR type of work because I talked a lot about hybrid working and remote working. And I also started getting people asking me questions when they will see my other marketing that was a lot more startup focused. And they were asking me questions about startups. I'm a future founder. I don't have a lot of money. I want to do X, Y, Z. How do I build a founding team? So I thought, maybe, I need to kind of consolidate my image. And I didn't do a massive pivot, but I did a slight change. For those who have been following me since the beginning, I used to call myself the Mary Poppins of business because I was focusing just on business in general. But I thought, let's go and face my niche. I work a lot with startups. A lot of the advice I give will benefit everybody else. But as I've said, call out your target market. So I niched out and really changed everything to be the Mary Poppins of startups. Of course, my foundation is still the same. Even though I have a lot of talks on innovation, design thinking, I've brought a lot of guests, for example, in the edtech industry, femtech industry, even one woman talk about sexual harassment, tech, and how it can improve the work, especially now that everybody's online, and so much more. But I always make sure that I also have quality content that talks about the soft skills of running an organization in startup, bring other experts in conversation about hybrid working because it's not going to go away. And a lot of startups also struggle with that. So essentially, my pivot was to really bring on a lot more technical talks, a lot more talks to help startups develop products or launch their projects, especially when everything goes wrong or they're confused. At the same time, I also provide them with the information that they need to design a workplace playground, a really good culture so that they can grow much stronger and find new clients, and also make sure that they have a happy team behind them. So if you are worried about should I really pivot or not? Or should I really change my messaging? Am I going to lose clients? Am I going to lose viewers? It really depends on the type of pivots. And if you have any question on that, I'm more than happy to help you to share with you how I kind of got into that as well. So the other question that we are going to look at is how do I make sure that I run my startup or my live show as a well-oiled machine? As I've mentioned earlier, for those who have joined, running a podcast, especially live, takes a lot of time and life gets in the way. And I also have a business to run, and I work with customers, not just advisory, but I also work with the teams, manage the teams, lead people offshore and other countries and everything. So how do I make sure that I have the time for this? For me, Again, if you ever listen to me, I always talked about planning, 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 planning. The biggest thing about being a startup is being able to plan, being able to react very quickly, and also being able to look at what have you been doing so far and tweak that. I use exactly all of the advice that I share with other people. More importantly, I believe in minimum viable products or prototypes, like they talk about when we build products, and I also apply that to the live show. So when I first started, it was important for me to go out there to find my own style and to also connect with the audience. And when I first started, everything was very manual, but we still had processes that we used to go through. We used to use a tool with Trello that shows us everything that we need to do every time we go live. We used to have spreadsheets with plans of what we're going to talk about in the next few weeks. How do we find guests? How do we nurture the guests? How do we invite them? The entire process. We wrote all of that. It was clunky. Of course it was, but it worked. As I was going through my journey, becoming more comfortable, finding my own voice, finding my own stride, I decided to be more productive by automating some of those things. We always have email templates that we send out to people, email templates for calendar invites, other reminders that come up automatically, and all the way down to even the tools that we are now using to communicate, update to YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, StreamYard, which we use to go live, and absolutely everything else. We have found a way to make it very, very simple for us. Any person on my team can wake up, go on one specific place where they have all the information that they need, what we're going to do with the blogs once we go live, who's going to update the websites, and all of the little details that you might not think about. So we've really, really spent the time to sanitize what we do, to really investigate and discuss what we do. And in fact, me and my team, actually, earlier this week, we had a 3-hour call to really look at just marketing in general, but we really go down into what works, what didn't work. In the past, we tried different formats, talking about prototype and trying different things. We had maybe like news, we kind of share the news, or maybe we wanted to have some clips that we show lives and things like that. But then we look at it afterwards and we say, are we wasting time or are we providing values? Are we putting too much in this that it becomes a lot of work for the capacity that we have? Or are we being comfortable and not evolving the podcast because we want to grow, evolving because we want to connect with your audience and continue serving? So it's important for you to really have that mindset of retrospective, which kind of look at everything that I've done so far. Is it good or bad, or how can I improve? Planning how you're going to change things or go to the next level, like I call it. So for me, I'm going to start, Mary Poppins of Startups live show version 2.0. So we have a lot of great ideas coming up in terms of the different types of guests that we are coming, mini series where we focused on one investor or accelerator and really ask them a lot of questions that startups have out there, finding ways to share emails with just one tip, because we know that our founders or the startup teams are very busy. So if you had an email sequence over the course of a few months where every single week you only get one tip that you can implement, it's a lot more focused than to go on a course that you never finish. So we have a lot of ideas on how we are going to grow the podcast. But the most important thing is that we started slow, learned, automated everything so that it runs like a well-oiled machine. And once we now have the time to think strategically, we think and plan for the next 6 months or next year, then we go into implementation mode. And at the end of that, we sit to get together again, plan, review, and see what's going to improve, and we keep going. So yes, this is my secret. It's not rocket science, and this is something that I really enjoyed, a process that I really enjoy going through, and I hope that it's also going to help you as well. So if you know anyone out there that is struggling with podcasting and they're thinking it's taking too much time, send them my way. I'm happy to help them, or at least recommend some of the people I spoke to as well when I was starting with my podcast. So just to finish off, if we look at some advice for newcomers, I guess there was quite a lot there, but I will definitely say start as soon as you can and just go. The worst thing that can happen is not moving, and if you're not moving, you are not improving. Let go of perfection. That's step number 2, so that you can move, make mistakes, and keep going. Number 3, Google is your friend. Anything that you want to learn in terms of interview techniques, public speaking, podcasting equipment, there's a lot of it I actually learned whilst cooking. I put a video on Google about interview techniques, or maybe on podcasting, lighting, this and this and that. Of course, I might not say that I'm the best, the perfect, but I always know that, especially on the weekends when I spend hours cooking or cleaning my house, I put a podcast or I put a video on YouTube that talks about a specific point I want to improve in my strategy to run my podcast. And it really, really helped me to get where I am today. So I would definitely say Google is your friend. If you're stuck, go there. The answer is already out there. You don't have to reinvent the engine. And the biggest advice, as I said before, plan, retrospective, do something. Then you plan, retrospective plan, do something, retrospective plan, do something. That will really help you to go forward. Now, some people ask me to share some of a few funny moments that we had on the podcast. Things go wrong, and some people get frustrated, but I've learned that sometimes just laugh it off and you move on. One of my favorite one was when I think I was going live, and then for some reason there was a sudden power cut, which never happened. And I think they were drilling outside, and I lost everything, internet connection. And you're thinking, wow, if I don't go back on time, what happens, right? So then you start thinking about ideas, or how I'm going to use my phone, or do X, Y, Z. But what is funny in there is about how do you turn in negative situation and then just start laughing about it. And when you go on the show, you talk about it and you just kind of move on. So you might be a few minutes late, but that happened. My favorite one is where I was just about to go live, got everything set up. And whilst I was working and getting my external lights happening, I rolled my chair and I cut the cord. And I thought, wow, I thought I was strong, but I didn't think that my weight was to the point that just by rolling my chair, I can cut the cord of my external light. So I didn't have any lighting for the show, but it was a nice story to tell, and it was quite funny. There are moments where you talk on mute, which is always fun because you're thinking with, spending so much time on Zoom and video call, I'll be used to that, but it does happen. Forgetting to send a guest the link on StreamYard, because obviously I send a video, the calendar invitations. Eventually we will create everything, all the marketing, but sometimes I completely forget to go back and update the calendars. So this is something that happened a few times, and you're thinking, where is the guest? And it's just 5 minutes before we go on the show, and you start feeling nervous, you haven't seen them, and then they pop up afterwards. But my favorite moments, again, in this, obviously, connecting with you guys, answering questions, especially unexpected ones. But one thing I really, really, really love is when, just like I said before, before we go live, there's the song that comes in, and I close my eyes and I pretend that I'm about to speak to my best friend so that I don't feel nervous or anything, and I just go. So me and my team, we do a bit of a dance. Sometimes we record it and put it on social media, but sometimes, like today, I don't care. And, I just don't know. It just makes me feel like, wow, I'm on stage. There's a concert. It's about to start. I'm going to be singing. Okay, I can't really sing. But it kind of helps me to get into that groove and get into that mood. And it really helps me to be as authentic and forget about the stress of life or what I'm going to do next, what I'm going to have for lunch, and to just connect with people. So those were some of the what I believe are some of the funny moments that I wanted to share with you. And to finish off, I'll quickly talk about what is next for the Mary Poppins of startups. Well, I love what I do, and we want to grow. And in fact, when we talk about what's next, one person I need is you that is watching me right now. For me to get to where I want to go, to continue serving you as much as I can, to really build that community where startup founders can come in, either work with me, or even if they don't work with me, they can connect by all of the content I've created over this year and the years to come. We need you to help us share the word out there. If you've been watching for a while and you like the content, do please let your friends know, other founders know, other team members, managers. We do a lot about managers, hybrid working and everything. So put the words out there. Do subscribe, because of course, people love to see the number of subscribers you have, number of views, and that's great for us so that we can get the sponsorship that we need. The more sponsors or partners that we can have, the more we can continue to improve the quality, bring on more guests without overburning ourselves. And finally, if you know any sponsor out there, or you're thinking about sponsoring us, if you are whether you are an investor or whether you are a startup that want to put their products out there and want to use the sponsorship routes, we're more than happy to support you there. You can be an accelerator or anyone that do any work linked to startups, then let me know. Or you could be providing tools for startups as well, or you could be having something interesting that has to deal with entrepreneurship. You want some more promotion, or you just want to support us because you love the kind of things we do. So do let me know. What I believe is going to be really exciting this year, we are preparing behind the scenes, preparing mini-series, in-depth discussions with very interesting people. We've had them on the show live, but we want to keep them for a bit longer than just one episode. So we are working on that. And there's more, but I'm not going to tell you everything. Otherwise, there won't be any surprises for you. So this is it for me. And thank you so much for being an amazing audience. If you have any questions when it comes to podcasting, challenges, you want to find out more about what I do, you have conferences you want to invite me to speak or whatever, or you just want to have a virtual coffee and it's just go, wow, bonkers. If you love what you do, please let me know. We love feedback, just send us a message, find me online, and I'm more than happy to tweak anything or answer a question that is specific to you so that you stop struggling on your own and join our community. In the meantime, let's design a happy and productive workplace playground together.